Hi guys. Apparently we're recording.
It's like, welcome back.
Welcome to the next episode of Wayward Dragon Reviews.
Yes. Yeah. Welcome.
Um,
Welcome.
this is a kind of a side thing from our regular podcast where we just kind of talk about what things we've read, watched, games we've played, and so on and so forth, and do all of our little witty bullshit ranting and banter.
Yes.
That way, we don't bog down our other episode.
Yes. The other episode's meat potatoes.
So, I'm Johnny.
And I'm Kelsey.
And I have a co-host.
Yeah.
I'm not just doing impersonations here.
That would be awesome if you could. That would be amazing.
I'm not even going to attempt it. When I was younger, I could do voices. Not so much now that I'm older.
Yeah.
I've read. This is not up to date correctly. What is going on here?
I just finished my fourth one not too long before we started
I did 5, but they're not all registering on Goodreads.
I've had that problem where I've had to go back and redo the whole I'm reading it thing because for some reason it doesn't stick. I've had that happen before.
It wasn't showing up in read order for some reason. That's weird. I did 5 books.
It's like I did 4. Yay.
Because I'm a gangster.
Yeah. Yeah, you are.
No, So I've talked about these books before, but I read book 3, 4, and 5 of the ChildDeath Cain book series, which is a book series that takes place in the Warhammer 40k universe. For those of you who don't know, that is a game that's like a war game tabletop where you have a bunch of minis and you battle them against each other, and they're ridiculously expensive for pieces of plastic.
Oh, yeah.
I do not play the game personally. I do not have that kind of money.
I know,
but I do love painting minis, and I love the lore that is built within the universe that it is in. It's very interesting, and the humans in it, a lot of them are very much a satirical take on the military-industrial complex.
Okay.
That's so cool. Especially like the main character in the book series, he's a complete chicken, and literally he's like a high-ranking military official, even though he's technically outside of the chain of command, and he's constantly like, well, shit, I'm only going to do this if it's going to save my own life, but I'm going to try to get out of here. And so he's constantly just trying to do well by himself and make sure he's safe, and then things just happen to fall into place to where he actually helps them win wars or win battles because of dumb luck.
That's fantastic.
And it's really cool how they do, because now we listen to those on Audible, and it's really cool how they do it because the books themselves are told from a different perspective, I'd say. So it's basically what it is the overall of the book is his audio file recordings, like his personal recordings after he's died. They've turned them into things to teach other people. Okay. And someone he's interacted with through the series is the one giving the commentary, and so she's like, he says this, but he couldn't have known this in the time period that it was going on, so it would have had to have been hindsight or retrospect looking over it, or he doesn't know what he's talking about, or this isn't exactly true through the whole thing. So it's really funny because she's just like, yeah, he's full of shit in certain parts.
He's just making this up.
So that's really entertaining.
That's funny.
You've got different space aliens, which are fantasy races. You've got one group that's the goblins and orcs kind of work together.
Okay.
and all of that fun stuff. You've got weird insectoid creatures.
Nice.
Yeah,
Gross.
so that's one of, or that's five of the five. That's three of the five books I read.
Yeah, what's the other two?
And really, it's really messing with me because it's books 3, 4, and 5. The other two books I read are the first two books and the only two books out for the Bloodsworn Saga, which, holy shit, third one needs to come out. So, to give kind of because I'm in like a group chat with a bunch of people that's like basically like an online uh, book club type sharing book thing that I have with other people from Dragon Con.
Yeah.
And so I'll kind of read the little blurb that I put in there. They call this the Age of Peace since all the gods are dead, but given the carnage that lay before us, I would beg to differ.
Okay.
So the two, I recently finished both The Shadow of the Gods and The Hunger of the Gods, which are the first and second series of the Bloodsworn Saga by John Gwynne.
Mm-hmm.
The third book isn't finished yet. There's no release date or name. I'm sure it'll have something to do with the gods.
Yeah.
He's shooting for it to be a trilogy.
That'd be nice.
Minor spoiler for the book. So, the time period the books takes place are approximately 300 years after a great battle between the gods, when most of them were killed off, or believed to be killed. It is believed that the final god in existence is a dragon who was locked away and kept guard by the children of two of the other gods. In this world exists those who have the blood of gods running through them.
Okay.
These individuals are typically taken as thralls or slaves, and a lot of them are forced into military service. There's a number of different slaves or thralls. Just because you are a thrall doesn't mean you have this blood in you. Typically, it's, you will get hunted down and forced into being a thrall if you are found to have this blood in you.
Okay.
Like I said, not all thralls have this ability. One of these slaves, or rather a former slave for narrative purposes,
Okay.
seeks to find out what happened to his sister, who he believes is dead after she was sold prior to him becoming free.
Okay.
So he's trying to figure out what happened to her, and he, like I said, he believes she's dead. So there are certain individuals who have the ability to see.
Just watch your mind go
See.
blank.
Yeah, no, sorry. Yeah, it's been a long day.
Oh, I know. I get it.
So the ability to see like what's happened to people when they went to die. So he's searching for one of these people, and then he finds out that there's a group of mercenaries.
Okay.
Who happens to have one of these individuals among their ranks.
Ooh.
Holding a competition because they're looking for a new member. So he's like, "Hey, I'm going to go up and ask them if I can use their person." And come to find out, you can only have access, or she will only look for or do any services if you are a member of this mercenary group.
Okay.
So then he has to compete
to get in
against one of the fiercest members of the group, who goes by the name of Half Troll. No, he's not a half troll. He's just really freaking big.
Yeah.
To prove his mettle, to gain access to the witch. In an attempt to find his sister, he ends up being brought in as part of this group and working as a hired soldier, which ends up working to fight against a grave terror that is on the rise to take over the land. So that is minor spoilers. There is a lot more to the book.
Yeah.
Or books rather. Really freaking awesome, amazing world building. Very unique in a lot of ways.
Mm-hmm.
And while it's me and I can deduce a number of things and it pisses people off because things are very obvious to me with little I mean, I'm the guy who, when I watched Scooby Doo as a kid, I could tell you who the killer was going to be.
Yeah.
Like, way before the end of this show.
Yeah.
So then that's how my brain works. There's like little set nuances and stuff that make sense.
Yeah.
So yeah, no, it's, with the exception of that, good read, good book, or books rather. Highly recommend both of them. Again, that's Shadow of the Gods and Hunger of the Gods by John Gwynne. Gwynne? I think it's Gwynne. Gwynne.
Okay.
Gwynne?
Yeah. Gwynne? Gwynne?
I don't know.
I don't
Weird
know.
fucking last names, guys.
I know. Trust me.
Anyways, what have you been reading?
So, I've been continuing the Pendergast series by Douglas Preston and Lincoln Child. My dad recommended this series to me years ago because he has read them. So I finished The Cabinet of Curiosities. That one takes place in New York, and basically it's obviously about the history of cabinets of curiosities. And those who don't know, before we had museums, people had private collections of artifacts, and you would pay to go tour their house full of curiosities. And eventually they got basically bought by what would later become museums. And this one cabinet of curiosities supposedly burnt down, and the person who owned the cabinet of curiosities back in the 1800s was trying to figure out kind of like a immortal elixir type thing, but also the destruction of the human race. He felt that we all needed to die, and he was going to help us find that. And then he lived. I'm not going to spoil it because it comes out of left field. Like the Pendergast series, a lot of it comes out of left field. And then the next one I read was Still Life with Crows. That one was messed up. So basically this takes place in Arkansas, Oklahoma, Texas, down there somewhere. And these killings start happening, and they're really weird. Like, this man is like found in a field, and around him are 24 crows on arrowheads, Indian arrowheads, and like 1800s Indian arrowheads. And then another person comes up dead, and they look like they've been buttered and sugared. And then the next one is full of like there's a snake and a dog tail sewn up into his stomach, like a live snake, so you can see the snake moving. This one I am going to spoil because it's whew. Basically, you find out that this woman in town got pregnant in the 60s, and her dad made her give birth and keep the child in the cave system below their house that his dad used to run moonshine. And so this child had no interaction with anyone for 50 years. So it's like a psychopath. Like psychopath. Like, because there's no morals, there's nothing. Nothing's there. And you find out that he eventually gets contact with the human world, and he doesn't know how to interact because the only person he's ever interacted with has been his mom. And he's killing people because he doesn't know anything better. And you find out at the very end that he's killing people in the weight of the nursery rhymes that she reads him, which is all sorts
Interesting.
of fucked up.
I don't know if,
Yeah, it's
from a psychological standpoint, I have a lot of questions on that.
like it.
But
Yeah,
yeah,
like
that's.
yeah, it was weird because like he was nearly blind because he's been living in a dark cave his whole life, and he's all like hunched over because of the cave. And he's really strong because he's had to climb everywhere because he's lived in a cave system, and he's really quiet because of that. Yeah, it was all sorts of mind messing. Um, and then I read Death and the Conjuror by Tom Mead. That one is an absolute delight to read. It's it's one of those cozy mysteries, but one of the things I appreciated at the end, because it's kind of like a Sherlock Holmes vibe type thing. Um, when you get to the end and he's kind of like spewing, because it's the impossible murder. Someone dies in a closed room. The room is locked. How did they die? How did they get murdered? Like how does that happen? Um, and at the end, one of the things I appreciated is as he's telling all these people like how this has happened, there's asterisks at the bottom that tells you where to go back in the story to get the clue that he's talking about.
Well, that's pretty cool.
So I thought that was actually kind of good. Like, it's definitely a cozy mystery, but like the asterisks and stuff at the bottom at the end, that was actually kind of cool. Like, but yeah, it's an impossible murder in 1800s. Psychiatrist dies in England, and like his throat is slit in a locked room, and this conjurer magician is called on by the Scotland Yard to figure out how it happened. So it's all the mystery that goes in with that, and it was actually kind of cool to like read the asterisks back. Um, and then right before we started this, I finished The Pale Blue Eye by Louis Byard. All I gotta say is I'm gonna be real fucking pissed if this Netflix movie does not do this justice. I'm
Well,
I'm I'm know I'm gonna be a little bit mad because it's not gonna be exact. But the twists and the turns at the end, I'm gonna be real upset if this does not kind of pan out like the book.
as we all know,
Like,
Netflix is very hit or miss.
I know. That's why I'm like, I'm gonna be real mad if this is a miss. So you got Christian Bale who plays Constable Leonard or something like that. And then you've got the gentleman who played Dursley in Harry Potter plays Edgar Allan Poe. And basically it's kind of a story of it's not factual. None of this is based in fact except for the fact that yes, Edgar Allan Poe did go to West Point. Yes, he did get himself kicked out. That's the only part of that story that's actually true, like towards the end when he kicks himself out. Um, but basically, a cadet at West Point is found dead. He's found hanging from a tree, but he's still in the sitting position. And later on, his body gets stolen and his heart gets cut out. And then another cadet goes missing and is found dead. And then another cadet goes missing. And I'm not going to spoil it for people because of the Netflix movie. The the person who done it, you think that like when you get to the end, like that's it. There's no more like shit that comes out of that field. There's more shit out here. Like I'm very interested to watch the movie to see how this goes, because it yeah, the ending comes out of left field, and I'm gonna be real fucking pissed if it doesn't, like, kind of come out that way a little
Yeah.
bit. Like, there's
Yeah.
stuff with his daughter that comes up that you don't realize, and you have to always, when you watch this movie, you have to constantly think about the time that it's in. Like, this is a heavy Christian era, right? When this movie is, like, the time frame, and women could not be promiscuous. So, and even then, um it's good. It was a good book. Like, because you think with, like, the occult undertone, because this girl, the occult undertone is this girl is having seizures, and halfway, a couple a couple years before all this starts happening, when she has her seizures, she is visited by a family member, and that family member is a witch hunter. And through her seizures, he guides her on how to get rid of the seizures, but, like, with human sacrifice. It's real weird. So they take advantage of the fact that he's killing these cadets to steal, like, their hearts. So it's good. The book
Yeah.
fucking twists and turns. Twists and turns. And
I wish they
then,
did more of that for a lot of other things, because I mean, you like I've said, I am way too good at predicting shit.
yeah. Like, I thought when we got to the end with, like, the girl that has seizures, I legit thought that was the end, and then it kept going. I looked at my phone and realized I still had an hour and a half left of my audiobook. And I was like, what the fuck do
Huh.
we have left to talk about? Because it's told from a reflection standpoint. Like, it's like a memoir type feel. Like, that's how it's read to you. Is like narration of so and so, like, chapter whatever, and it's like, it's told as, like, a reflection, which was interesting. And then to kind of get a story of, because to me, we don't know a lot about Edgar Allan Poe, so to kind of have, even if it is fiction, to kind of have a cool, interesting tale of kind of how he becomes this dark poet and everything for us in literature, like, that was cool to, like, even if it is complete BS, like, like, it was good. um and then we watched the Hatchet Wielding Hitchhiker on Netflix.
I feel like I've seen some stuff about that.
That one, it's a movie, it's not a show.
Yeah.
Two, they don't even talk about the guy's trial at all. So I don't know if it's something that, like, they couldn't talk about. But basically, this guy, Kai, he's, well, his name is Caleb. Caleb Kai something. And he's homeless. And he's, wandering. And he comes upon this woman who's getting attacked in a car. And he hits the person who's attacking her in the head with a fucking hatchet. Like, the blunt end a couple of times, and then the sharp part. And they show one, if you're squeamish, don't watch it. Because they show the wounds, and he becomes, like, an overnight media sensation, which I don't remember. And obviously, because he's homeless, he's transient, and he murders a man. And that's basically it. And you find out that he's kind of lied a lot about his childhood. But I feel like there's a lot of stuff missing. I felt like there's a lot of stuff missing because there's no, like, talk of the trial. or anything. Because normally when you watch some form of true crime, there's talks of the trial and how the trial goes and all that stuff, and talking to jury members and stuff, and there was none of that. So I was a little confused with that.
Yeah, well,
Like,
yeah, I've noticed that too, and that's, you know, I kind of get into listening to Time Suck, which
yeah.
the they kind of talk about a little bit about that, or a little bit about some of the trials and stuff when they talk about some true crime topics on there.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, it was good, but yeah, it was a little weird.
Yeah,
I,
gotcha.
I
I
just
haven't
felt
really
this.
watched anything, uh, nothing worth talking about. Been kind of tied up with. Well, I've been tied up with work, and then uh, everything else. We're back to over our slight respite and back to 6 days a week.
Ooh.
I mean, I did see a really, really bad movie recently that I do not recommend to anyone. Uh, it's like a 1983 sci-fi horror movie called Extra, which was English. And let me tell you, I love bad movies, but it was really bad. But yeah, so other than that, I've reading, working, doing some research on our next regular episode.
Yes.
Um, being annoyed by this new stupid meme. I'm gonna go on a rant. I don't know if you saw my thing on this, so I'm gonna go on a
Oh,
rant.
about
So
the cop?
right now there's a meme out, yes, about this female cop who was in an open marriage
Yes.
and slept with five of her other officers.
Okay.
She's been getting all sorts of shit from people because she did this. So here's the thing, and part of the other officers were married. Here's the thing:
Okay.
no one's talking shit about any of their officers. They're talking about her because she's a female and she's getting
Yep.
slut shamed.
Yep.
For
Yep.
one,
Yep.
and any of our long-term listeners know we don't tolerate that shit here.
Yeah. No.
Like we are
Regardless.
very sex positive, and you know what? It's her fucking life. Even if they didn't have an open relationship, that's between her and her significant other.
Yeah, that's between
Um,
them.
yeah. Two, and here's where my issues get into it too. Well, I'll get into that in a second. So, but two, um, there's a lot of freaking workplaces out there. I mean, food industries is really bad. Grocery stores are really bad, where
Mm-hmm.
people sleep with multiple other coworkers.
Yep.
It happens a lot. It's very rare that you don't see it happen.
Yep.
So I get it. Not something you want to think about, but come on. My biggest issues here is that one, obviously, I have issues with all the people out there that are slut shaming her,
Yeah.
and I think it's all of our long term listeners know how I feel about law enforcement. But
Yep.
here's the
Yep.
thing: one, a lot of these people were on the clock, or several times this was on the clock.
Which is a no-no.
Don't be fucking on my tax dollar.
Yeah. So do that.
Like
You do that on
fuck
your own time, please.
fuck whoever you want consensually.
Yeah.
If it is consensual and you are both of legal age, then
Yeah.
have at it.
But not
But
not on the
don't
clock.
be fucking on my tax dollars. I don't want to pay for that.
Like
If you want to get paid to have and have sex at the same time, become a sex worker.
OnlyFans. Yep.
And you know what? If you've got an issue with that and you have an issue with workers, then I don't know what to tell you because, you know, the part of the reason why it's such a risky job is because it's illegal and
Yep.
people are marginalized because of the bullshit.
Yep.
And this is going to be like the first of a couple of rants Kelsey's going to hear me go on because when I uh, talk about the thing, because we record this and our main episode the same day, and so
Yep.
she'll get to hear me go on a rant about that on that as well, which we'll deal with that later.
Yeah.
And I think you've heard that rant before, but like I said, we'll talk about that later. The other thing is that, and this is my biggest issue. The
Yeah.
tax dollars is somewhat joking, but somewhat not. My biggest issue is the fact that 3 of these 5 coworkers were her superior officers.
That's not cool. That's not
So we're talking about power dynamic issues here. This is
Yeah.
the same thing that, if you have a student sleeping with a teacher, even if
Yeah.
it's not their teacher, or like say a college student sleeping with a professor, even
I
though
was
it may
about to
not be their
say that.
professor, there is still a power dynamic there. You should not be doing that. You should not have any sort of relations with your subordinates like that.
Yeah, no.
If you have it going on before the advancement in career, then that's another conversation,
Yeah,
and
that's
there's
something
ways
totally
to
different.
address that. But you should not be having relationships like that with your subordinate. It is a huge fucking issue.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
so there's that. And then also all this bullshit with the OGL.
Hmm?
Any of the nerds that are play any sort of RPG here, and I'm sure several nerds that listen that do not know what I'm talking about with the OGL. So there was a leak from Wizards of the Coast
Okay.
about the open licensing agreement and how they were going to change it. So
Okay.
D&D for the
Okay.
longest time has had an open licensing agreement to any creators that they could take it and publish stuff as long as it's not like lucidious or offensive material
Okay.
to supplement for D&D.
Okay.
They would just have to note, basically, without all the legal mumbo jumbo, they would just have to note all of the fact that this is the source material, this is what we're referencing, this
Yeah.
is legally owned by this. But Wizards of the
Yeah.
Coast is trying to change that and monetize every single aspect of D&D. And I think it's Hasbro that owns it, is trying to monetize that to the point where they're trying to make it to where any creators of anything has to
Yeah.
be officially licensed, and they have to get a large percentage of the proceeds from any of these creators. They are not legally allowed to put out any original material. They're not even allowed to use similar systems, which means that any other system out there that is even similar to D&D, they would have to take and go to court over. um, yeah, no, it is a huge, huge thing. There are multiple lawyers that have spoken on this, and they're Wizards is also trying to get back money from companies that have had stuff previously, and they want them to register everything that they've ever made. And yeah, and it's pissed a lot of people off to the point where a lot of people are talking about completely dropping D&D altogether, or going to other games. There are
Yeah.
multiple companies that are independent creators that are pushing back and have legal backing, and it's fucking nuts.
That's not cool.
Yeah, it's fucking nuts. the
That's not cool.
the American Bar Association,
Yeah.
which for any of our listeners outside the United States, that is the organization that's run by the government that basically puts the exam forth on laws
Yep.
for different types of lawyers, through specialty and different types of lawyers, that you have to have an approval and have to pass the bar exam to become a lawyer.
Yep.
So these are basically the people that say you can and cannot have a say so in legal matters
Yep.
from that standpoint.
Yep. Yep.
They've even pushed back on it. Like they called out the fact that it was complete and utter bullshit, and that Wizards doesn't have a leg to stand on. They also said that as far as any sort of tabletop RPGs goes, their go-to is Call of Cthulhu, because they're fucking ridiculous nerds apparently. But that's not the point. Which is funny because I have a lawyer friend who is a huge fan of Call of Cthulhu, and he's the one that sent that to me about their statement and everything. And they actually say this in the statement, and I'm like, "Yep, makes sense.
Yep.
Uh,
Yeah.
but yeah, no, I think I'm. Sorry, I kind of dominated this episode with all the ranting and shit.
No, you're fine.
It's
You're fine.
just I'm over people right now. I'm over corporations. I'm over shitty people, slut shaming people.
Oh yeah, yeah.
So yeah, that's what I've got.
Oh. Yeah. Yep. Yep.
So I guess that's the end of this. If you want to learn about some cool books or
Yeah.
weird books, I guess we're going to be covering a couple of those in a total of 4 that I whittled down from over 30 in
Yep.
our weekly episode. And then I'll
Yeah.
kind of have some honorable mentions as well and some antidotes that, I kind of got from people while I was talking about some of the books, or rather one individual who I said I was going to cite as an expert, but we'll get into that when we do that. It'll be a funny shits and giggles type thing.
Gotcha. Okay.
And then I'll have to pull up some of the images so you can post them on our
social medias,
Instagram and Facebooks and tweeters and
I don't know how to
whatever
work
else.
Twitter. I have yet to figure out how that works.
I don't know.
I don't know either. So, but
You're the
anyway,
social media one here.
I am. I'm the social media queen. Hashtag queen.
So,
yeah.
Until next time, if you, enjoyed this or not, rate, review us, follow us.
Yeah, rate, review, subscribe. Please tell a friend. Tell a friend. Tell a friend.
Till then, I'm Johnny.
And I'm Kelsey. Bye.
Bye.